Okay, we are live. We just have to get rid of the clock here. Where did I put that clock? There it is. Okay, so I decided to start a little early because there's a lot of stuff that's evolving here that I wanted to really cover while it's happening. Uh, Mute this. Kind of rushing myself. Okay, so let's dive in. We're going to, of course, check out the latest questions in the live chat room. Of course, being that this is not a major storm on the I-95 corridor, I get it. I do. There isn't going to be a lot of interaction because a lot of people are at work. And let's face it, a lot of the audience is on the I-95 corridor, New York City, Philadelphia, central New Jersey, stuff like that. But I'm going to also give some love to the guys up there in the Poconos and the Catskills who are subscribers as well. So we're going to cover this storm, and I think it's important to document the evolution of this storm because we're going to learn a lot. So, leading up to the forecast, the model guidance has been trending warmer. I stayed with the general forecast because I was concerned, and rightfully so, of the wintry mix mess that was trying to set up just north and west of the I-95 corridor, which we saw this morning, which is now giving way to rain. So, that is pretty much coming to an end. But the rain snow line is starting to stabilize. The primary push of the warm air was at 9 to 25 millibars. So, we're going to take a look at that and study how this all evolved because it's going to give us a good idea of how to handle the other low pressure systems that are coming in and how the models are handling the low level cold air, which held out pretty nicely. It was actually a little bit colder than was forecasted, which is interesting to follow. And of course, all you guys following on social media. Of course, I always appreciate it. One thing I will be checking out on X on here just to see if there's any observations. So if you have observations to share, I definitely would suggest checking out X and sharing them onto my feed. I will retweet them, of course, or re-X them, whatever the heck they call it. And all questions are answered for premium members when they do ask them. So we'll definitely check that out. But again, I'm kind of focusing today on more of my discussion on the evolution of the storm. And of course, just come in, then they come in. If they don't, hey, oh, then I'll be talking to the ether. That's okay, though. I don't mind at all. So let's see where we are in terms of our observations. And right now, on the surface, we have our stationary front that is set up along the coast here. Temperatures have risen into the 40s, pretty much as expected, over the coastal plain. Mid to upper 30s just along and northwest of the I-95 corridor, and snow with temperatures in the 20s, mid 20s to lower 30s over northeastern Pennsylvania, northwest New Jersey, and the Catskills. Not much shift in the rain snow line since we had our initial warm push. It's pretty much just started to stabilize. And, we're seeing snow being reported down towards Hagerstown, Lancaster, Lebanon, Allentown, Hazleton, Scranton, and up towards northwest New Jersey. We got a little bit of a mix just north and west of the I-95 corridor, and then periods of snow. This is why I didn't really adjust the 3 to 6 inch line out of northwest New Jersey, because while there will be a gradual shift towards rain, there's going to be a pretty good period of snowfall occurring here that's going to set up probably around 3 4 inches, especially on grassy surfaces while this is all evolving here. So we're seeing all this starting to play out with our low pressure system developing to the south down towards the Carolinas. Okay, and this low pressure system is going to be shooting to the northwest. Now, a couple of things to just point out with this storm. From the beginning, I've always said this was not a major winter storm in any way, shape, or form because the whole pattern was far too progressive. So I had no doubt whatsoever about whether or not this was going to change over to rain on the I-95 corridor. The European guides was having a very difficult time handling this storm, producing as much as 6 inches of snow in New York City. I heard whatever the Apple feed is feeding in there, trying to produce snow for today for New York City Metro. No, it's somebody glitched. AI had a low brain fart apparently for the Apple app, which is why I've been getting so many requests and questions with, hey, what's going on here? with the forecast because I'm looking on my phone. So this is why I decided to jump in early because I want to make sure people calm people down, relax. Something some glitch went on with your phone, okay? But your meteorologist is here to set you straight. If you're on the I-95 corridor, if you're in New York City, Philadelphia, central southern New Jersey, northeastern New Jersey, this is primarily a rainfall threat. And any snow you saw, I saw maybe a couple flakes here in Freehold, New Jersey. Now temperatures have risen up into the around 37.8 degrees Fahrenheit, and we've had rain ever since the initial burst of a little bit of snow, and it has gone over to rain ever since. So, taking a look at the shortwave here, again, it's moving really, really progressively. And let's refresh this to see if we got any new data. And you can see how fast this is moving, okay? So, with this moving quickly, it limits your potential for going over 6 inches for most of the region. You are going to have a little bit of convergence and confluence here. Now, you see here, this is the 250 millibar winds, okay? And you see this little stretching here, just slightly, okay? This little diffluence here is going to support a little bit of enhancement around New England, okay? So around Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire. This little tweak right there, that's going to enhance convergence, and it's going to lead to a as this upper level low at 850 millibar shifts towards the coast, you're going to get some mid and low level confluence, and that's going to set up a nice little snowfall, pushing over 6 inches around Albany, up towards Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont. But those areas, of course, are outside of the forecast area. But this is really important to point out because earlier on, there was an idea that perhaps Connecticut could really push into a pretty heavy snowfall event here. Um, and that was driven by the potential here that this upper level low that is currently up towards the northern Hudson Bay and starting to drop down into the Hudson Bay itself was going to move fast enough to get to about this level today, and as a result, enhance this jet streak. That didn't happen, and that's why you saw the model guidance back away from that significant precipitation event scenario. Instead, what you have here overall in this general pattern, and this is why it's important to understand patterns so that way you don't get caught in this model watching and trending and hoping for trends back and forth. This pattern is not supportive for a major East Coast coastal plain snowstorm, and I want to show you why. See this trough here? This trough here negates any type of amplification on the East Coast. That's why I knew immediately, nope, this isn't going to work. Because this lack of amplification here means that whatever is marching through the Ohio River Valley and Tennessee River Valley, granted, these short waves in the subtropical jet stream are loaded with moisture and are pretty vigorous. They are they're not going to be capable of turning up and keeping the cold air locked in because there's nothing blocking. There's no blocking yet. We're not at that point yet. We're in phase 7 of MJO. We're in a progressive pattern. Once we get into phase 8 towards the middle of this month, then things get interesting. We're seeing some interesting model guidance with that towards the end of this week. Again, we're going to have Friday. I think that's a fast moving clipper. Could be some interesting little snow. So we'll watch that and keep an eye on that for Friday night to Saturday morning. But I'm more interested in the following week, okay? Because the weather pattern becomes more favorable. You get a little bit more of a negative NAO. You get a little bit more of a ridge out towards the Rockies. You get a clipper dropping in with a low pressure system redeveloping. That time period, that has my attention. That could be something that well, we could be talking about a lot more areas seeing snow out there rather than just rain on the coastal plain. So that is pretty interesting. Now, back to our storm here. When do we start to see the rain snow line really pushing towards the interior? Once this 950 millibar low redevelops over the Carolinas. We're starting to see that process right now. Ahead of this, the 925 millibar low, in fact, let's go back 4 hours here. You see how it was sitting up here around West Virginia 4 hours ago? That's just driving warm air right from the Atlantic into the coastal plain, pushing that rain snow line aggressively towards the north and west. There was never any doubt that this was going to change over to rain. Even northwest of the Northwest Philadelphia metro, um, those locations definitely changing over to rain. And the reason why we knew that was because of the 925 millibar low. Now, this 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 time period here, notice if I can lock it in, notice during this 4 hour time period, you had more of a surge up towards West Virginia. Okay, so you had your stronger surge up and through West Virginia, and then you had another surge off the East Coast here of two warm air transports, and then you had a little bit of cold air basically banked up against northwestern Virginia and eastern West Virginia, which really enhance your snowfall in these locations and cause a moderate snowfall to heavy snowfall event in those locations. Meanwhile, the cold air locked in over eastern Pennsylvania and tried to hold on over northern New Jersey and central New Jersey. But once we got 2 hours in, 2 hours ago now, the 925 millibar low is starting to redevelop off the coast, but you still have your warm air transport. And we go to now, once this 925 millibar low consolidates, what you're going to see is these winds shifting to the northwest. Right now, they're coming from the southeast. Once that shift happens, the progression of the rain snow line will come to an end, and we'll start to see everything shift back towards the coast as far as the cold air transport. We're also seeing this here at 850 millibars, very weak 850 millibar low that's starting to take shape here. Once this becomes established later on this afternoon, and we'll track that, what we'll see is the cold air here start to trend back towards the coast. Now, for the coastal plain, this means around 2 to 4 a.m. You might see a little bit of a snowflake if you happen to be up, mixing with the rain before it comes to an end. But for the most part, and no accumulation, I expect it, so don't waste your time. But this process is what's going to keep the snowfall locked in these areas. And that's why you're going to be capable of going up to 3 to 6 inches in these areas as we continue to watch this low pressure system evolve. Now, as this low pressure system takes shape, this precipitation shield will start to backfill a little bit. So, again, this is going to be a fast moving system. By 6 o'clock this evening, most of this will be done, and then you just kind of have a lingering band handing up around here just with very light snow. The bulk of your lifting right now is occurring right now with this shortwave. You still also see that here on the water vapor satellite picture. Pretty good shortwave just marching its way through from west to east, um, setting up this snowfall threat. So let's see if we have any other. Let's see, it's 27 in Branchville, New Jersey. No mixing yet in northwestern New Jersey. Very interesting. Of course, guys, if you have any questions, as always, feel free to ask. We're focusing on this storm, but if you have other questions, and of course, we'll have our live chat tomorrow night at 8 p.m. So that should be fun. Hopefully, my voice can keep up. That'd be interesting. On X, let's see what we have here in terms of the observations. And yeah. Well, Joe is another great meteorologist on the New Jersey shore here. We've been dealing with this apple fallout all morning with a lot of clients freaking out, which has been pretty interesting. I could say that in dealing with this storm. Certainly, I was not what I was expecting. My New York City guys, clients were like, "Hey, are we going to get 6 inches of snow now?" I'm like, "Well, what? What are you talking about?" So that was fun. That was certainly a fun little conversation, calming everyone down. See, plain rain. Oh, yeah, I know. You want to see this snowfall. It's so close yet so far away. But don't worry. I wanted, I'm going to cover this in just a second, but I want to see the other observations here. Let's see here. And as always, I always like to share the good observations. See, 35 here in Mercer County and probably rain. Getting an inch down, coming down steadily in Sussex City. There we go. And of course, if you're a business owner and you want to get more details on this type of storm or any type of storms going forward, you can be just subscribe $15 a month, and you can jump right into the live chat room and get more details that will impact your specific city. Or if you're interested in a more detailed forecast driven for your specific needs, definitely check out business consulting, which provides you your own page and forecast tailored specifically for your concerns. That said, let's talk about the evolution here of this whole setup here this month. Just think about this. We are in literally the one day into meteorological winter, and we're already seeing snow over the interior. Now, I get you guys want to see snow on the coast. I do. Trust me, I get it. Like Christmas, all that good stuff. Not so much if it works out well for your shopping, but I digress. It's still, I get it. You know, it's a nice feel, it's exciting. Usually, you have less than a 10% chance of seeing snow on the coastal plain for a white Christmas or for mid to late December. This year, that's going to be at the very least around 30%, at the very least. Um, this is going to be a very interesting pattern. And the fact that we're already seeing these type of low pressure systems and this type of cold air support over the interior this early into the season, literally a day into the season, has has my attention. That is for sure. Because typically this time of year, you're lucky to see anything like this in terms of potential snowfall or anything of that nature. It's certainly something that it sets up an environment where the coastal plain is going to be capable of getting colder than what's modeled, because you're setting up right now your cold source. You're setting up with the snowfall in the Poconos right now, in northwestern New Jersey right now, in New England right now. You're setting up the support that when we do get cold air damming, you're developing that over a fresh snowpack that makes the low level cold air much harder to get rid of. So on the coastal plain, I get it. You know, you want to see the snowfall. You saw some of the model guidance suggesting 4 or 5 inches of snow, even though I never went there. So you get excited. Look at it this way. This is paying off dividends for the future. Okay, for the weather pattern to come for mid-December on through January. This whole environment sets up the credit for support for a pretty vigorous cold air mass um, in place. Let's see what else do we have here. 4 inches in Chattanooga, New York. Steve, any ideas what level the warm nose is at? It's essentially at 9 to 25 millibars. It's showing up at 850 millibars, but the primary thrust is at 9 to 25 millibars um, for most of the region. You're also seeing that with your SKU-T in some locations around 900 millibars. So it's essentially right above the coast, right above the surface. So at the surface, you're at, let's say in Freehold right now, I'm at 38. At about 900 millibars, I'm at around 40, and 925 around 43. And then at 850 millibars, I'm around 38 again. So there you can see this, the cold nose. Let's see if we can pull that up here. There's the warm shot right there, driving in your warm air. Um, so yeah, pretty impressive. Let's see here. Oh, he found this QT. Good deal. All right. So, and we're already seeing snowfall. Here we are in New York. Nice little scene. I feel like I want to play Christmas music, but I know if I do that, I'm going to get struck. You know what I mean? I'm not going to end up with losing my ability to stream on Twitch and whatnot. So I'm not doing that, but I'm really tempted to just play like White Christmas or something like that. Oh well, it's that time of year, right? So let's see. We got more observations here on X are shown up. Oh wow. Well, look at that. Nice snowfall showing up. Make sure when you post it that you put in your location and not your street address or anything like that. Like basically like town, state, you know. Yeah, like this one. Not bad. Let's see here. So this one. So as we continue to watch this evolution here, let me see here. Okay, so this stationary front. Oh, look at the trends here now. Look at this little push. Let's see if we can get a little bit better data here. I'm going to pick from the map. And of course, we'll be taking breaks throughout the day. I'm not going to go 6 hours straight and not have any break to save my voice. So usually every hour, or I'll put in a little short coffee break, bathroom break, whatnot. Let's see here. We'll go with that. Add local radar. Let's see if we actually have a shift southward or if it's just a shift in no, 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 no. We are starting to get a little bit colder on the northern end. See, this rain snow line really putting up a fight. And this is exactly what I was worried about in these areas here, which matches up with, see if I was smart enough to put the impact map up or not. Probably not. But this is what I was concerned about in my pink zones here is that, yeah, the warm air will push in and then the cold air will fight right back as our low pressure system starts to organize off the coast. And you can see the shift that's already starting to take shape here. We had our southeasterly winds. Now we're getting more northerly winds, northwesterly winds, and that's going to drive your freezing line, at the very least, stabilize it and not allow it to push further into the coast. So as a result, this whole idea that this is going to be a rain event all the way up into the Poconos is not going to work out very well when you have this type of low level cold air in place, which is why I did not buy it with when I saw some of the mesoscale model guidance here pushing the rain snow line all the way up into these locations. Because you have a pretty good cold air, and now you're getting your cold air transport coming to an end. Okay, so you're probably going to see some mixing of sleep at times, but really you're just going to get steady snowfall up here, just keeping on going. And it's driven by the fact that we're starting to see these changes taking shape at 9 to 25 millibars. So it's not really that much of a surprise here that we're starting to see an end to that warm air transport. Now, the question is, we're seeing it at the surface already. Now, the next question is, when do we see it start to shift at 9 to 25 millibars? We're starting to see that here around West Virginia, but we haven't seen it yet. It's kind of like a ghost here of the old 9 to 25 millibar low and the new one starting to take shape here. Okay. So once we start seeing that signal start to show up at 9 to 25 millibars, that's when things are going to get very interesting in northwest New Jersey and in northeastern Pennsylvania with the intensification of the snowfall. And that's why I have them getting up to 6 inches. If this storm had any type of blocking, you'd be looking at, well, first of all, a little bit colder scenario. I would still say that the I-95 corridor would eventually go over the rain. But if you had any type of blocking, this could easily have been a 6 to 10 inch type snowfall for the Poconos, Catskills, maybe more of a 3 to 6 inch snowfall just northwest of the I-95 corridor to hold on to that cold air. But without the blocking, you don't have that support and you don't have the ability to lock in the cold air until the low pressure system shifts off the coast, which is what we're watching right now and what we're monitoring. We move the sector here now. And if you're curious, if you've never seen this before, this is the spc.noaa.gov. Okay, totally free website. Excellent information as always. See if we got any new observations here. See here in northwestern New Jersey, I think. some pretty good snowfall. And this is generally a wet snowfall. For central Pennsylvania, snow Northumberland about 4.1 inches. So there we got our verification for the snowfall for that area. All the heavy rain is staying offshore. Yeah, we should see about a half an inch again. Like the most intense lifting has always been suspected to be off the coast. If it had pushed on the coast, we'd easily be looking at a 2 inch type rainfall event. But I was thinking anywhere between a half an inch and an inch. We're up to about a quarter of an inch here in Freehold. So for the rest of this, I could definitely see that type of setup where we see about roughly a half an inch to a quarter of an inch for most of the region, a few spots around a 1 inch. But it's really catching my attention here. Looking at this indication, this rain snow line, it is not pushing northward anymore. It is pretty much stalled. This is interesting. Maybe I will verify that 3 inches right around here. That would be very, very interesting to see if that plays out. Let me go and pull up my impact map. In fact, here, I'll just pull Google Map impact. Where are you? I think this is it. Yeah, here we are. So yeah, this was the corridor I was worried about. Surprising people right here. Not so much Trenton, I-95. This was all about a trace to an inch. But right here, that's what I was concerned about. Morristown, maybe getting roads generally staying wet because it's still marginal temperatures. Any type of treatment should reduce. And this is a very, very wet snow as well. But right here, this is where I was like, I think this might stay a little bit colder right around Morristown. And what are we seeing? Let's go back to the observations again. And that is exactly what we're starting to see setting up here. That rain snow line dropping down towards Union. I would not be surprised if you guys around Livingston, Union, um, north of Edison, right around here, you guys start seeing rain and sleet starting to show up in your observations. I would not be surprised by that. And again, this is all because the process, and now we're getting new data here. And yeah, it's still doing that drop. Let's see. It's about to load, and there it is. Now you're getting heavier precipitation. Now, the reason why you're seeing more of a mixing when you get into heavier precipitation is that you're causing air to rapidly rise, which cools the environment, and the environment is very marginal. So it doesn't take much to get you to go from rain over to snow with any type of uh, enhanced mesoscale lifting. So that is essentially what you're seeing in this location right around here. And let me see, we'll zoom in a few more spots here. And that's getting awfully close to Newark. I don't think they'll see anything, but that is interesting to see. West Meanfield, Ridgefield, Wayne. See if I can overlay some roads here to put the counties on here and the interstates. See if we get a little bit more data here. So around 287, my idea was that eventually this is going over to rain, but these trends certainly have me a little bit concerned that snow is going to be sticking around here. I was thinking north of I-80 and 287, right to north of here. This is where it would get up to as far as the rain snow line, but instead, it has basically stopped and has dropped over the past 30 minutes or so. So that is seeing this live. Gotta love meteorology. This is why I love meteorology, and this is why I am not concerned about AI model guidance. But remember, AI model guidance was having trouble with this whole event too. And this is why you have to study the environment and study the development here. So very interesting, very interesting observations coming up here. We'll see how it plays out. Now with this, I'm going to zoom out again. So again, clearly northwest of the I-95 corridor, right? Setting up. Um, yeah, even back westward in front of Lancaster, we're already seeing that precipitation too. If you guys are out here, I'm very curious. If there's some of you guys following out towards to south of Allentown, I should probably label the county names too. So if you're around northern Bucks, Montgomery, I'm curious, especially around Chester. I'm very curious to see if you're seeing rain now, if you get any observations of any type of mixing taking place here, starting to mix back after you saw the rain push northward. Uh, let's see, we have another observation here. We'll share that. 3.5 inches in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. Well, I'll tell you this right now. I am very much confident in the fact that we will verify in zone 1. 100% confident. I'm starting to gain confidence of verification in zone 2. Zone 3 was only a trace. I wasn't so much concerned about that. And of course, zone 4 was just rain, so that's easy to confirm. But man, this is getting pretty close here. I know it's early, but how are we looking for Friday night, Saturday? There's a lot. I'm This Friday night into Saturday is not a major event because we don't have the pattern for it yet. But it is something that could produce like a burst of light to moderate snow that we'll be keeping an eye on and seeing how that plays out. But I'm not expecting anything that would be a major winter storm just yet. And I do expect some wintry mix at times. So it's a little bit of a there's still more data that we have to gather, but I do not see this as a major storm because we don't have the ridge axis, we don't have the amplification. The NAO negative NAO pattern is starting to develop, but not there yet. Not there yet to support slowing down a storm. The one on Friday and Saturday is more of a nuisance than anything else right now. That's how I'm seeing it. The one after that for next Wednesday, which might line up just right. Not this one, the next one. That one could be pretty interesting. All right, it's a clipper. It drops down, redevelops, so it's kind of a hybrid clipper Miller B type setup here. You have some of the blocking. There's some signs of amplification with the PNA going positive. That one has my attention. Okay, not saying anything beyond that. Okay, there's no reason to jump beyond that, but it's certainly the most favorable one in terms of widespread impacts. I'll put it that way. Don't want to jump the gun just yet, but that time period itself has my attention. That is for sure. And again, back to the observations. Here we are at 11 a.m. And again, you can see that easterly wind component on the coast still hanging on, but now we're getting that northerly wind. Now we're starting to get the low level cold air transport. And it's going to be very interesting zooming in here if we start to see, I mean, it's not that warm, 34, 35. See, we're already seeing around MMU. Let's see here. We have freezing rain and sleet right around Cadwell, which is in Essex County. So again, there's that rain snow line that it just has stalled and just stopped. Allentown, let's see here. It is reporting light snow in Allentown. And let's see. some sleet in northern Allentown. Very interesting setup here, so evolving. In Reading, we have freezing rain, which is certainly a concern. Temperature 32 degrees. Lancaster, we're at freezing rain. So we kind of want to get rid of the freezing rain. We either want to be snow or rain. Freezing rain is just not good in any way, shape, or form. It is very, very bad juju. That is not good to see. But that freezing line has not been moving all that much now. Now we have that northerly wind component. So we're gonna have to watch this very carefully. Again, not the I-95 corridor. I'm not so much concerned about that, but locations just around it. I mean, this just continues to. Let's refresh this and see if we got anything new here. Yeah, it's on the northern half of Union, northern Somerset, half of Huntington. It's just not moving. And this is exactly why I kept that 1 to 3 in place here. I might not do so well here in southeastern Pennsylvania. We'll see. But right here, I was concerned about this, and it is locking in, so to speak. We'll see how much in terms of any type of accumulations reported. I'm really interested to get your observations as well to see if there's anything that stands out. Let's see here. It's measured 1.5 inches. We have about 1 inch before changeover. Pretty steady rain at the moment. 41 rain in Queens. Rain sunlight is getting close to Queens. Could you see a little mixing? Unlikely down in Queens. Pardon me. Open up a little bit. Help my voice. Um, Unlikely in Queens. Surface temperature up to 31.6, up from 29 in the past 90 minutes. So you're at 31. If you're at rain, David, if you're at rain, you're seeing freezing rain at 31.6, up from 29 the past 90 minutes. So that makes sense. I'm not going to show them exactly where you live, but I kind of get an idea. That makes sense considering what we're seeing here. And we'll see if we get another surge northward. Because I can't believe that this rain snow line is going to keep on falling southward. It's got to just stabilize basically. Because if it drops southward, then we're talking about a totally different scenario here, and everyone busts because then it's gonna be like, hey, it shouldn't be snowing. Hey, the Apple app was right then, right? That would be a big surprise. I'm not expecting that. I'm not saying that. Certainly a big surprise. Let's see. I'm also checking our Discord. If you don't know, we also have a Discord. It's kind of like a nice little family of weather questions. Most times everyone behaves, but sometimes, so the snow will last. The snow's gonna, yeah, I do think that the snow's gonna be sticking around quite a bit, for quite some time in northeastern Pennsylvania. Let's see here, 1.5 inches already. So everyone's excited. Of course, I'm also keeping an eye on the X version of my baseball feed after last night's signing for the Mets. Very interested to see what else they're going to do. So that should be really fun. Um, but hey, I like the signing as long as they get someone else, and you all know who. So here we are right now with the latest data. It surged southward, shifted back northward. It's basically stabilizing in this area, and we'll see whether or not we get a shift to that colder air pushing southward. If I can pull up the right map, at once we get our 850 millibar and 925 millibar low set up off the coast, and with the new data, we're already starting to see some of that signal here. With you still got the primary back here. This is at 9 to 25 millibars. So your primary is here. Your new coastal is starting to take shape here. In fact, let's go back to this. Get a better view. So you're starting to see the shift towards the coast now. This is starting to fade. This is starting to take hold. How do you know it's fading? Because the isotherms here are starting to get a little bit more loose, whereas this is getting tightly packed. So this is going to be your focus of your next 9 to 25 millibar low. And this will, considering everything's moving west to east, this will shift off the Delmarva. And once that happens and this fades away, you're going to see these winds all shift, kind of like what you're seeing back here in Ohio and West Virginia and Western Pennsylvania from the west. And that's going to happen fast. It's going to be probably within a 90-minute time period. Once this collapses, the whole structure of the storm changes and you see that shift. This is why Miller B's are very difficult to forecast in terms of the rain snow line and trying to develop a lot of snow in the coastal plain and especially southeastern Pennsylvania, right in this little corner here, because you have to wait for this new transition. And if you don't have a high pressure system to the north, then you don't have anything to keep that cold air locked in. But if you do have high pressure system to the north, then you can push that rain snow line back towards, like, let's say, the I-95 corridor through central New Jersey. That also makes the transition a lot faster. But without all that, this transition, this whole process, it just kind of slogs along and you keep on getting that warm air transport until this completely takes over. Let's see, at 850 millibars, process is a little bit faster. There's your 850 millibar low taking shape. Your primary is still back here. You can see that right here with the westerly winds and southwesterly winds, but you're starting to see that shift gradually take shape here, probably in the next 2 hours, and that will again slow down the progression of your rain snow line. So here we are again. Let's zoom out, and there is your storm. That progression of the rain snow line northward has slowed down significantly. Basically bisecting Bucks and Chester, cutting up through northern New Jersey. The south shore of Connecticut, of course, has gone over to rain. I wouldn't be surprised if northern Connecticut, northeastern Connecticut goes back over to snow later on this afternoon, evening. Northwestern Connecticut, I think you're holding on. That's why I kept you at 3 to 6. And don't be surprised if you're more towards that 6 range. This is all evolving. Lewisburg. 3.5 inches near Lewisburg already. There we go. Let's see here. Here's Paul. I'm in Wayne, New Jersey. It looks like freezing rain, maybe some sleet. On your radar, it shows snow, which it is not. Interesting. Okay. That's good to know. It's also good to know where the radars in general have a difficulty with the rain snow line. What I like to look at is whether or not frozen or not frozen. So Paul is picking up freezing rain and sleet where he's at. Um, David, radars use surface temperatures to define the winter masking. This is often not accurate due to warm air aloft, which melts the exactly. Yeah, I like to use the winter setting on the radar for just frozen or not frozen. And then I rely on observation to get a better detailed idea on freezing rain or sleet. Um, because typically with these, they do have a difficulty picking that up. Sometimes they do an okay job. I wouldn't lock a forecast on it, which is why, again, I'm looking at the observations and keeping an eye on the trends. To me, what's important to me is that, okay, this has significantly slowed down from frozen to non-frozen, um, which is what you want to see. What we were expecting to see as this low pressure system evolves. As we move forward, the forecast again was that this rain snow line uh, gets to about here, and locations like locations like, let me zoom in here. Locations like Morris County, Hunterdon County, this whole area here eventually goes over the rain. So we'll watch that and see how that takes shape as we go forward over the next couple of hours. That's why I'm expecting this to change over to rain, but still maybe 1 or 2 inches on the grass here. Here is where I'm expecting my accumulating snowfall on the roads, on everything, which is generally what we've been seeing, what has been verifying pretty nicely overall. And see, this is what's great about having premium followers. They do just an amazing job of um of the whole of just following the storm and providing great insight into a storm evolution. They provide me a lot of great observations when this type of storm takes shape. I'm going to take a 5 minute break just to save my voice. So I'll be back in roughly five. Yeah, I'll give myself a 10 minute little interval just so bathroom, all that good stuff. So we'll be back after that. Let me go fix this. And we'll put a timer up as well. So we'll be right back. Probably a good idea if I unmuted myself, right? There we go. Okay, so we are back with the latest observations of our interior winter storm for the Poconos and Catskills and whatnot, and northwestern New Jersey. And you're seeing here snowfall, moderate to heavy snowfall over towards northeastern Pennsylvania, as far south as Hazleton, and uh, up towards northwestern New Jersey around Sussex. The Sussex airport is reporting snow, moderate snowfall, visibility about half a mile. Pretty good snow accumulation there. Let's zoom in, and you can see where that freezing rain line is right around here. So, like around Cadwell, we report 32 degrees, freezing rain, which is certainly a concern. The good news is that up towards Somerville, you've gone over to rain. Temperature about 35, nice cold rain. Allentown, though, you're still sitting here at snowfall taking place, and right around Bethlehem. But then as you head southward down towards Quakertown, you've gone over to rain, with temperatures right around 34 degrees. So the shift from snow to rain is pretty tight here, and very interesting to watch how this is all playing out. With the warm air eventually winning this fight, for everyone except for northeastern Pennsylvania and extreme northern New Jersey, and of course the Catskills. Over towards Reading, we still have freezing rain being reported, 32 degrees. And the only real thing that that we really have to monitor that could throw a little bit of a monkey wrench into this forecast on the colder side. I think the warmer side we pretty much maximize is if we see a faster development of our mid-level lows, which I'm not expecting, but that's something that I'm watching very carefully. Here we are, our latest snow, or I guess you call it frozen or non-frozen line, where you have your frozen precipitation here continuing. You're back into the storm. Notice, zoom out here, you're seeing some of this backfilling back here. Now, what's happening is that our surface low pressure system starting to gain some support here down towards Virginia, getting ready to organize and take over as the primary. Here's the old primary. So you're getting a little bit of this backfill here trying to take shape, which is going to slow the exit of our precipitation shield, and why it's going to last until the evening, and not just exit out of here by the late afternoon. That's going to help to support pushing those snowfall totals up towards that 6-inch mark, up towards Scranton and Wayne and Pike. Here's our rain snow line again, gradually pushing northward. And here is the latest HRR guidance. And that rain snow line is going to get just up to about Sussex, stall out there, just around Allentown, just around the Sussex border, cutting through the central Hudson River Valley, portions of northern Connecticut, and then swing on through. And again, precipitation shield is moving pretty quickly. The HRR is ending it this evening over eastern Pennsylvania, continuing on into northern Connecticut, and then again, we'll have a few flurries hanging around in the early morning hours. By tomorrow morning, this is completely gone and out of here. The evening rush hour is going to be a bit rough up in these parts. New York City Metro just wet, as we've been talking about. The Philadelphia Metro just wet, but we'll watch locations just north and west to see if this ends up being slightly colder than what the model guidance is showing as we move forward through the afternoon hours. And basically, this live coverage will be dependent on whether or not there's any other substantial changes. That way I don't kill my voice completely. But of course, answering your questions as well. Let's see here. See some good questions here. Next break, going to have soup. Okay, good deal. Let's see if there's any new observations on X. I have a couple. There we go. Okay, so this is taken at 9:51. 3.5 inches going on 4 as of 11 a.m. Clark Summit, Pennsylvania. Not bad. Snow started at 7 a.m. Very scenic. And again, this is a very wet snow. You can see just how it's clumping here. It's a very, very high water content snow. So this is why when you're using your 10 to 1 snow maps, it can be a bit of a problem because you might not be dealing with a 10 to 1 ratio. It might be more like a 8 to 1 ratio. So there was a lot of solutions that were going 7, 8, 9 inches of snow. But if you're not 10 to 1, if you're a little bit lower, that's where you get your capped point at 6 inches. But we'll see whether or not that works out. Let's see here. Did not expect my voice to be cracking so much. It looks like I'm gonna have to do some work on that. I do have, yes, I do have secrets. Future sponsor, who knows? But yeah, definitely have to watch the old voice. I'm going to do another live coverage tomorrow or live chat tomorrow. Definitely got to watch the voice there. Learned that the hard way a couple of years ago. I lost my voice for like 2 weeks. Also, as I'm doing this, keeping an eye on questions coming in from clients, which is always fun. Yeah, okay. Let me just put it in there. Quick question. So give me 1 second. Okay. Evening. All liquid. No concern for frozen. More for southern New Jersey. Frozen precipitation. And we'll take a look at some of the 06Z guidance. I'm curious. Let's see. While we're watching the storm, we're waiting for new data to come in. First, let me just check this out. 25 millibars. That hasn't changed. Let's see if we got any indication from the front of Genesis here. Yeah, it's still focused over the interior. You're starting to see some indication here. Nice front of Genesis line there. If it was a little bit colder, it would have been really interesting. But we are not there yet for that time of year. Warm air transport. There's your warm surge at 9 to 25 millibars. Look at that. Just punching right in to central New Jersey. Very impressive. You can also see that at 850 millibars showing up right on the I-95 corridor. Boom. You see that setup, you better not be going over 6 inches anywhere on the I-95 corridor if you start seeing that signature showing up. I was kind of surprised that the AI guidance was so cold, to be honest with you. I thought it might adjust a little bit warmer, a little bit faster. So 925. This is front of Genesis again. You can see where the new low is starting to take shape here. You can clearly see where the focus is going to be. This is the old low. This is the new low. Most likely it'll track right towards the Jersey coastal waters by this afternoon. This system is moving quickly, though. This might actually, I'm going to have to correct myself. This is actually setting up, moving a little bit faster here. This is actually probably going to be over by this evening in many locations at this rate, which is good, you know. But it's certainly going to cut short any type of potential for any type of changeover. That is for sure. On the coast for maybe a few flurries and whatnot, that is definitely cutting to an end because what we're not seeing. I thought I was seeing it a little bit out here the last hour, but we're not seeing the rapid building back here. It's cutting off pretty fast. And again, this is a very disorganized low. So I thought we would see like the traditional little build back and extend it for maybe an hour or two. I'm not even seeing that um, right now. I'm not seeing that at all. I thought maybe we're starting to see that here, starting to take shape, but over the past 30, 40 minutes, we really haven't seen any further expansion. So while we are getting our new coastal low taking shape here, the jump in the Appalachians, it's it just isn't maturing fast enough because we don't have the support for that jet streak and we don't have any potential here to slow this whole pattern down. So even that aspect is moving faster than expected, which is what the HRR is starting to catch up on. So as we study our rain snow line, and I think that it adjusted from the observations everyone was talking about, saying, hey, I'm seeing rain here where it's saying snow. They're going to jump northward. Very nice. So there's our warm air transport continuing, lining up perfectly with what exactly we were looking at 9 to 25 millibars and 850 millibars. But in the meantime, that's also intensifying the snow here. Let me briefly take off the mask here. I'll take off the whole radar. Just the mask. There's your bright banding from some of the sleet mixed in, but you can see a nice little area of moderate snow taking shape here. It's pushing your snowfall totals. We're pretty much done up here. Bradford, Susquehanna, Wyoming, Sullivan. Whatever you got this morning, you're pretty much done at this point. You might have a few snow showers, but that is about it. Your main event is going to be right here. This is what we're going to be focusing on, setting up that potential for those 6 inches right in this area right here. And we're well on the way of pushing towards that. Let's see if we got any new questions up here. Picked up half an inch from 11:05 to 12 to 11:25 and got to get 2 inches. Still snowing hard. Temps have warmed slightly, 27.5. Certainly snowing there. There we go. I'm kind of excited to be honest with you when we actually get one of those region-wide winter storms because this is going to work out really nicely. I just gotta better prepare myself, have more tea in place rather than coffee. I think that would probably be very important consideration is having green tea set up rather than coffee. I think that would be a better approach here, and of course water as well. Had some coffee. Um, Now I'm going more towards. I got one energy drink here. I had to get this energy drink. Again, not a sponsor or anything, and I don't typically drink these, but it's a sour blue Razilla. It's a Godzilla sign on here, and my wife knew. She's like, "You're getting it." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm getting it." Because it is awesome. And look, as a Godzilla fan, I never thought I'd have live in a time where I have so much access. When I was a younger kid, I used to go to, some of you guys would know this, Suncoast Videos in the mall, right? And basically harass this poor teenager just trying to, do his normal little 4 hour shift after work. Like, hey, are there any new Godzilla movies? Can I order a Godzilla movie? Now I can run into them all the time. It's wonderful. I gotta admit, it is a wonderful thing to experience. So just wanted to share that. And add a little bit more personality to these feeds. It's not just always about the weather. It's about having fun and enjoying the little things. This isn't too bad either. It has a nice little raspberry kick to it. But I don't suggest drinking a lot of these. But, figure give it a shot. We got a whole case from Amazon. Again, you can see some of that heavier precipitation. And this is all snow. Let's see if we can set up our snow line. There's our rain snow line right there. There you go. There it is. Slowly pushing northward. You got all your rain here, all your snow here. Here's your wintry mix cutting up through Huntington. It's just in northern Summit. Still hanging around Burton and Essex. A little surprised with that. I wonder, let me see if I can overlay this. One other thing here. See if we get temperatures. There we go. Okay. So clearly anything that's fallen liquid is going to just be rain here at 33, 34. But all up here, this is all frozen. And I'm concerned about the ice potential here that really, I mean, honestly, I didn't really um, talk about it quite a bit. But that frozen potential down here in southeastern Pennsylvania has me a little concerned here. Let's see what those observations are down towards Chester. Yeah, and 32 in rain. That's not a good sign. We really want to get rid of that. 33 in rain, that's where you want to be. You do not want to have freezing rain developing out here. I was concerned about that wintry mix, but we really, really do not want winter freezing rain because I could tell you I wasn't really advertising all that much, but it's hanging around there. So that's a bit of a concern. And this, by the way, is your general coastal front. Okay, this is what you generally have to deal with on the coastal plain. Anytime you get an easterly wind, forget about it. It's going to go over to rain. Yeah, there isn't much wind because this low isn't really all that well developed. Um, it's relatively weak. This whole system. I mean, if you remember back on Wednesday, I was saying that. So yeah, there really wasn't ever going to be much in the way of wind with this storm at all, because not until it really intensified well to the east of us as it's lifting up towards the Gulf of Maine. That's when we'll probably see this really take shape and really start to intensify. But everywhere else, not for us in terms of the intensification of this low. And these are the 825 millibar winds. You can see that transition starting to show up. There's our warm air pushing northward. Taking shape very nicely. Let's see. At 1,000 millibars, just a little bit below 950, of course, 50 millibars lower. There you can see that warm air pushing its way in over the interior, and then at the surface, there's our freezing line locked in. And what we're waiting for is the primary low at all levels to take over. And when that happens, that's when we start to back off on our warm air transport, which isn't supposed to happen until we get to the afternoon hours. Very heavy rain here, 41 degrees. Excuse me. Get new observations that are coming in. 34 down in northern Maryland. 32. I really want to see southeastern Pennsylvania either get up to 34, 35, or go back over to snow. I really don't want to see this freezing rain signal here. This has me a little concerned. If you're out here Coltsville, Chester County. Very concerned out here to the west of King and Prussia for some icy roads here. So if you're traveling around I-76 here, that's a bit of a concern, especially some of these back roads here. Right around 32 degrees, not much away treatment. That ice is that freezing line is really holding. I just want to see over the next hour or two getting up to 33, 34 degrees. Like what you have here around Pottsville, perfect. 33 degrees, raining. We do not want to see ice. And that is exactly what's holding up here. You're seeing that in Reading, although that's really marginal. Um, I'm concerned about around Lancaster. That's New Holland. If you guys are out here around Lancaster, Willow Street, Oxford may be a little bit too far south, but basically right in this area here, if you're traveling around Reading, French Creek State Park, anywhere in this area around some Route 76 here, I'd be very, very careful if you're heading out towards Denver, Pennsylvania in this ballpark here. A little treacherous. I don't like seeing this signal. I like to see, and especially with that northerly wind, that's a bit of a concern. And that concern extends all the way up just to the south of Allentown, although Allentown itself is still reporting snow. If you're around Washington, High Bridge, it's going to get a little slick out there, a little bit slicker than what I wanted. East Stroudsburg, seeing snow, it looks like. And of course, up towards Sussex Airport, we're still seeing some pretty good snowfall. We haven't seen any type of transition. Uh, Up towards Cadwell, as expected, has gone over to rain. This whole area was expected to go over rain, pretty quickly, and that's exactly what has happened. Look at the difference in terms of the temperatures. Look at that urban heat island effect. New York City, you're at 48 to 43 degrees, and Newark, you're at 37. So that warm air on the coast is trying to push inland, but kind of running into a bit of a wall. But again, I'm concerned about some of these spots here for some icy conditions. Just use caution on the roadways as we move forward. As we watch this rain snow line try to push northward. Really, it's rain, ice, snow. Okay, here's your ice again. Sleet, freezing rain. Very much a concern here. And again, this is your snow line pushing back towards the east again, around Lancaster. So we take off the winterized map here, and you can see it very nicely here. The moderate precipitation showing up in Wayne, Pike. There's some of that bright banding around Bucks. So probably rain and sleet here, maybe a little bit of freezing rain. The coast, of course, we're seeing moderate to heavy rain right along the stationary front. There's our new lows starting to take shape. So we put back on the winter mask. Again, that rain snow line appears to be wavering again. Wavering back and forth. So we're no longer seeing the steady progression westward anymore. It's kind of like wavering back and forth as we continue to watch this evolution of the precipitation take shape. Temperatures in the 40s. Let's see here. 33. Scott has 33 degrees here. Switch over to rain from freezing rain about 30 minutes ago. Sidewalk still icy. Where temperatures in the mid 40s on Jersey Shore. Yeah, actually, that's those water temperatures are going to fall off pretty nicely with the cold waves that are going to be coming in. Don't be surprised if we're looking at temperatures more in the upper 30s by the time we get to the middle of this month, as far as our sea surface temperatures. Will the mixing make it to Sussex County, or do you think it stalls before you don't need any freezing rain? I think that southern Sussex County will see that mix of snow, sleet, freezing rain, and rain. Central and northern Sussex County, I think will stay mostly snow. But I, if the model, unless the model guidance is completely wrong, it should reach southern Sussex County, right on the border. And then as you head further north into the state, into the county, it should stay all as snow. So basically, if this guidance is wrong, if this is actually ends up being colder, then we're gonna have some conversations with some icy conditions because again, it's almost 12 o'clock, and the guidance had this all being rain and above freezing, all in this area right here. And the mall guys had the ice line around Reading and Harrisburg. Whereas the observations, and again, hopefully that this ends up being a little bit further north, but the observation, oh, we've gone back over to snow. Philadelphia Westfield Apartments. Let's see, LOM. Now, that's kind of surprising. We'll see whether or not that observation sticks. Right around Reading, 34, 30. This is rain in Reading, 34 degrees in rain. That's not freezing rain anymore. Lancaster still at 32. Again, I just want to see these areas at like 34 in rain. Kind of like matching up with Reading. But right now, it's a little bit colder in those spots, and that is a concern. We're freezing here right in the middle of the day, too. So definitely setting up um, for a bit of an icy period for the evening rush hour. If you are driving out around Allentown, south of Allentown, basically between King of Prussia and Allentown, and you're driving home this evening from work, use some caution. On 476, use some caution with some icy spots based on the observations we're seeing here. But hopefully this all warms up and we get well above freezing. Again, even 34, 35 go a long way into reducing that threat. But right now, we're just kind of hanging right on the edge. Let's see, we've got some new observations here. Let's see here. Observations update from Jefferson Township at 11:50 a.m. Snow has stopped and switched to sleet and rain. So just about an inch worth of snow accumulation, temperature at 33 degrees. Go. And we'll wait for the full observation to see how well this verified. These areas pretty much 100%. This area pretty much 100%. This area is a big question mark to see whether or not some locations are getting that 1 inch. Got a few locations of a trace here. Wasn't really expecting anything. Just some cold surface stuff. But if you try to do it on a measuring board, probably pick up with nothing or a trace down here. Like Trenton basically got just a flake or two in rain. Same thing in Freehold. So, but I have some doubts on this verification here. Pretty good here. Pretty good here. So, we'll see how it plays out. Well, we're getting close to 12, so let's see if we have any new observations from the SPC as far as the evolution of our low pressure systems. broad low here. Let's see if we can step back here. So now we've gone to a transition from, instead of a primary here and weak low here, now we got a broad circulation as we get to that transition zone. And again, for this storm, it's not going to matter all that much outside of the locations we've been talking about. It's in no way, or I want to make this very clear. In no way, shape, or form does this become cold enough to bring any type of frozen precipitation to the I-95 corridor. Okay, so I just want to get that out of there. So I want to make that very clear. But I want to watch this, and that way you could see how this evolution takes shape. Once this 9 to 25 millibar low, it's not always, a lot of people focus on the 850 millibar low, and understandably why. But at 925 millibars is where you really see some of the finer details in the forecast. Because at 9 to 25 millibars, that's where you start to see the influence of um, your warm tongue that can change you from a snow to a sleet event or sleet to rain. It influences around here, it influences that rain, non rain, frozen rain line far more than 850 millibars. Of course, if your 850 millibar low is well to your west, it's not going to matter what's going on at 925 millibars. But in this transition scenario, the first domino is not the 850 millibar low, it's the 925 millibar low. And when this shifts, everything else cascades and falls behind it. Even in your surface low, you get your surface low established off the coast. That's all good and fine. It sets up your northerly wind, which we're seeing right now, but you still have that warm air transport just above the surface level. So you're still having that influence of the precipitation changing over. It's the 9 to 25 millibar load that puts an end to that and shifts everything forward. And I just kind of wanted to illustrate that today. That's what we're keeping an eye on. That's what we're going to watch. And you can see the westerly winds taking shape here over Western Virginia and West Virginia. When we starting to see that coming to an end and shifting over Pennsylvania. Once you get that shift, that's the end of your mix line moving northward. So this is the lesson I want you to take from today, is that the faster you get that 925 millibar load to transition towards the coast, the faster you start to transition back over to a frozen precipitation event or stop the rain snow line from moving northward. And that is what we're going to be watching today. And here we have data coming in, and now look what we're seeing here. Here's that westerly wind showing up in northern Virginia. Your 9 to 25 millibar low is right starting to form right about here. And once it gets here this afternoon, you're going to see that rain snow line stop right around the southern portion of Sussex. At 850 millibars, again, here's your 850 millibar low to the west. Here's your coastal indication here. Once the 9 to 25 millibar low falls, this will follow. But until that happens, this isn't changing. And so that's why you're seeing your rain snow line kind of just stalling out here right along this gradient as that whole process is undergoing. And so at the surface, with new observations coming in, oh, here's some good news. Okay, let's zoom in. Lancaster is still around freezing, but other locations you're starting to get above that 33, 34. This is exactly what we want to see. Perfect. Nice rainfall. King of Prussia. Again, I'd still keep an eye if you're traveling on I-76 today and any of the back roads in this area. Use caution because you're still going to have some slick roadways out here. Same thing as you head up northward. The new observations coming in. There's our freezing line still stuck. pretty good rain out here in Freehold. We're up to 0.38 inches so far and climbing. So we're heading towards that half inch mark around here on the coast for rainfall, which is going to help our semi drought conditions. Which we haven't really seen a good rainfall pattern in quite some time. So it's something that interesting to see if that flips over by the time now. With all the cold air coming in, could be interesting. Northward, northern New Jersey, still seeing the rain. There are ice lines somewhere right around here, around Hackensack, north of Precipity. But we've seen our changeover take shape in Morristown, so that's good. So I would say our ice line's right about here. Let's say from Oakland, central Passaic County, flipping northern Bergen, cutting down through right around Parsippany, maybe just a little bit north of there, towards High Bridge, and right around Perkinsey, Penn Ridge, Pennsylvania. There we go. As a result, there is our precipitation line. And there is our mix line. Slowly, slowly, slowly pushing northward in northern New Jersey, stalling out in southeastern Pennsylvania. But certainly evolving as expected. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much the main story for the rest of this afternoon is keeping an eye on this mid-level low. So we get more and more data coming in. We have now cold air transport over north central Pennsylvania. Still warm air transport right here. So probably in the next hour we get our 925 millibar low forming right around here. Right around the Delmarva Peninsula. Meanwhile, the speed of our precipitation is at a pretty good clip, to be honest with you. Let me jump to refresh this, and then we'll zoom out. Yep, everything's moving west to east. Now, when you get an actual low pressure system to actually really intensify and organize, what's going to happen is that you start to get a pivot. In this case, that's not going to happen because, again, everything's moving west to east pretty fast. There's no blocking, and so it's going to move at a pretty steady pace. But if you had blocking, what you would see here is that, and typically what happens is that a lot of people get very, very antsy and say, oh, the storm's going to end. But what happens is that when you get blocking, this starts to pivot and this starts to fill back in. And the whole precipitation shield basically pivots like this. And so you end up with a longer precipitation event. That's the difference between a 4 to 6 hour event and a 6 to 12 hour event. Is that pivot? Is that ability for that low pressure system to do that? In this case, there is no pivot because there is no blocking. No blocking to slow anything down. Therefore, it just heads right on out. Let's see. Oh, got a couple good questions here. So let me go and jump on them. Let's see here. Tom's first. I remember one year back, a while back, water temperatures were in the mid 50s around this time of year. And then by the middle to end of the month, there was ice in New York Harbor. Do you see a similar scenario? I could definitely see that, especially with low temperatures setting up over the next 5 to 7 days, at times in the teens. Yeah, I could definitely see that taking shape around the coastal waters. Yes. So short answer, yes. Um, Yeah, the Niger 25 millibar levels screwed us a bit last winter, creating a few ice rather than snow events. Learned that lesson for sure. Yes, Scott. And here's the thing with Miller Beats, that's always a real troublesome aspect to the forecast. This year, if we get that interaction happening a little bit faster between the polar and subtropical jet stream, and we get more of an alignment this year, that whole process will be a lot more fluid. Part of the struggle with these low pressure systems is that if one shortwave is off by just a little bit, it tends to lead to a lot of confusion, and it tends in terms of the model data, and it creates this delay between the structures transitioning from the interior to the coast and proper phasing. So it can be a real pain in the neck to forecast. Let's see here. Mixing may eventually make it into your area, but it's a ways out. It will be close call probably. Excuse me. Uh, oh, I see. Yeah, they got the link. That's another thing too. Is that everyone in the Preem chat room, they try to help each other. So that is awesome. How much freezing rain do you need to issue a winter storm warning? That kind of depends on the location and what the criteria is. New York City, for example, anything over, I would say, a tenth definitely is going to get you a warning. Meanwhile, if you're in northeastern Pennsylvania, the tenth of an inch might give you a weather advisory, and a quarter of an inch probably get you a warning. So it just kind of depends on the criteria for each location. And the National Weather Service, via climatology, sets that up. So, for example, a hundredth of an inch of ice in Atlanta would definitely set up a winter storm warning. A tenth of an inch of ice around southern New Jersey would definitely set up a winter storm warning, but it would only produce an advisory as you head out towards, let's say, the Poconos. So it just kind of sets up, depending on the environment and what the climatology is and what people are used to as well. I mean, then again, an inch of snow in in Atlanta would definitely put out a winter storm warning where it wouldn't even be much of an issue for us. Let's see. And it's nice to see. I recognize that this was not going to be a major event for most people, but seeing people join here and come in and ask questions is certainly great. To see even when we're not dealing with a widespread winter storm. Just checking out the chat room here. Let's see here. Oh, looks like we got some guys here. Oh boy. Oh no. Okay, I had to deal with that. Fun part about handling a Discord is that sometimes we get some interesting interactions, and sometimes you just kind of have to deal with things even though you don't expect to. Yeah, I have to deal with that later. Okay, dive in to see what exactly is going on. Oh boy. Okay. Oh well. Oh, let's take a look at the HRR. Honestly, like sometimes running the Discord and just keeping an eye on that can be a real. Oh, you're very much appreciated, Thomas. Of course. Yeah, that's one of the things I'm working on is doing a marine forecast as well. Those have been fun. It's a good challenge because you don't always have the best observations, and you know, glad to be helpful. Let's see what we got in terms of new HRR data. This is just coming out, and you can see what I mean here. It just basically stalls right around southern Sussex County in terms of the freezing line here. So I would not be surprised if a lot of Sussex County stays just all snow. Northwestern Connecticut too might be getting close up there too. They're staying all snow and getting closer to that higher end of that 3 to 6 inch amount. Now, what's going to be interesting after the storm is I wonder if they do some analysis of the AI guidance, especially for the European guidance, on why it was so cold. What was the cold bias there? The European has been shown ever since they did an upgrade. It has been leaning a little bit too cold as well. Not a lot, but certainly in this storm, a couple days out, it definitely was very, very cold. In fact, here, let's see if I could pull in some of the old data here. See if it shows up here. Yeah, I mean, look at the old data here. Keeping the snow, heavy snow, down towards New York City. And the reason why I was doing that is that it was transitioning the mid-level low to the coast literally about 3 to 4 hours faster than it should have. Now, if I was just, some people say I just followed the European. If I had just followed the European, I'd be stuck with a forecast of 4 to 8 inches out here around New York City, where I never went with that because it just didn't make any sense to be that fast of a transition, especially with no high pressure in place. When you see a high pressure system like this, just exiting really fast, stay away from any type of frozen precipitation forecast for the coast unless you're starting out at 10 degrees at the start of the storm. And even then, that's still a bit of a challenge to keep in. Because when that high pressure system exiting, that means you're going to be developing an easterly wind and you're just going to drive mild air in. So that process is something that you always want to keep an eye on. And of course, everyone's focusing in on Friday. The 06Z gives no respect to the disturbance on Friday evening. It's just basically a few snow showers, and that's about it. Whereas the 0Z guidance, far more robust. Now, why is that the case? In fact, here is the 0Z guidance setting up for Friday. Now, why is that the case? Well, it really comes down to how it's handling 500 millibar vorticity. We'll go right here. Now, here's our disturbance right now. Notice again, no block. It just swings on through. It's weakening as it's coming in and exits, right? Pretty straightforward. The one on Friday basically does the same thing, which is why I'm saying it's not a major storm here. Pretty good, maybe some precipitation. Again, most likely the European is probably a little bit too dry with the subtropical jet stream, much like this one was too dry initially. But again, it's not an environment that supports a strong shortwave because we don't have the amplification. Now, the one for Tuesday and Wednesday, this one's a little bit more robust. If we take a look at 192 hours on this one right here, I'll pull up our heights. Why am I interested in that one? I got a little bit of a ridge, and not a major storm, but I got a ridge here, and I got enough blocking here to set up a slight negative tilt. And here's your blocking, here's your slowing down the whole pattern, and that could keep your cold air in. That's why I'm more interested in Tuesday night into Wednesday than I am on Friday into Saturday. Friday into Saturday, okay, and this is a good idea about pattern recognition, is that leading up to it, your ridge axis is off the coast. So you end up with a broad trough. You're setting up the pattern. So end up with this broad trough. So it's going to be sheared apart. But that whole process that's evolving here leads to increasing blocking in the northern Atlantic and sets up Tuesday, Wednesday to be more interesting. Now, things that we're going to have to study: the position of this ridge, the orientation of this trough here. Okay, I would like it a little bit further west and this a little bit more broad. The blocking here in the Atlantic is just fine. No issues there. I got 50-50 trough and probably wanted to see that 50-50 low try to set up here, but it doesn't have to happen. It just sets up your pattern a little bit better. Um, so leading up to the event, there's your ridge. This allows for a little bit more amplification, and that leads to your slight negative tilt. So that's why I'm a little bit more interested in that time period than I am for Friday into Saturday. So again, we'll keep an eye on that to see how that plays out. And hopefully that plays out. It takes shape. Let's see here. Oh boy, I hope you feel better with the sinus infection. That stinks. See if we got any new observations here in X. No, nothing new there. The observations. Now we're seeing more of that northerly wind taking shape. Freezing line really hasn't changed all that much, but the wind certainly is starting to shift more to the north. Now from the northwestern Trenton, 35 in rain. Again, this is great news down here in southeastern Pennsylvania, getting us above freezing. There's that blowing effect. Oh, this is interesting. This is starting to go back to the west, to the east again. Northern. Let's see if that matches up in Connecticut. Yeah, we're still seeing snow up here in northern Connecticut. Freezing rain. Of course, the coast, as expected, is all rain above freezing. Holy smokes, southern New Jersey is up to 53 degrees today. Not bad. That is some impressive warm air transport. That's what happens when you don't have a high. So yeah, this is probably a little bit too. This is probably more like freezing rain, sleet here. This is definitely all snow up here. And there's the end of our storm, approaching Lebanon, passing through Dolphin, Lancaster County. You're right at the edge of this coming to an end already. So yeah, this storm is moving pretty quickly, a pretty quick pace. I'll probably continue this until we get the 9 to 25 millibar load locked in. I think then, from there we'll probably shut it down from there. That will be the lesson of the day: is studying the mid-level lows and seeing how that takes shape as we move forward. So we'll zoom in on the sector, right, this sector right here. And oh, well, that's interesting. This is at 850 millibars. Little sign. We'll see whether or not that sticks in the next hour. Nice little 850 millibar low, secondary low taking shape here. Here's the primary back here. Let's see if that shows up at 9 to 25 millibars. So that broad circulation back here. 41 and rain still in Queens. Temperature hasn't moved all that much. Go. I'm most happy about the fact that we're finally seeing temperatures well above freeze at 33, 34 degrees, exactly where I want to be in southeastern Pennsylvania. Did not want to see ice. I rather, in terms of forecasting, I rather bust going from snow to rain than snow to ice. Like freezing rain is horrendous for travel. Everything causes crashes. People get hurt. Not a good event. Not a good situation. It's probably the best thing I could take from this. But wow, this thing is really moving fast. Just looking at the back edge of this, it is already clearing central Pennsylvania. You guys are done there. Virginia, Western Virginia, and West Virginia are both done. At the rate this is moving, this actually might be. Let's see what the new HRR is pulling. This thing might be done by 5 o'clock. The way this thing's moving. Yeah, look at that. By 5 o'clock on the new HRR that just came out here, we're looking at uh, the back end of this reaching the Delaware River Valley. Snow coming to an end in northeastern Pennsylvania, coming to an end in Mount Pocono. This is moving fast, very fast. At this rate, we'll be done completely in the entire region. While snow coming to an end, you guys up in Connecticut, you're going to just get a mix of everything in northeastern Connecticut: rain, sleet, snow, back over to snow. Just a real mess up there. Um, as we head towards the overnight period, don't be surprised if you're heading to bed that you change back over to snow and get another inch or so out of this. But this looks like northeastern Pennsylvania, you're all snow. Sussex, you're all snow. Central Hudson Valley, you stay all snow. Northwestern Connecticut, all snow. So all pretty much all the areas where I had that 3 to 6, you're most likely to get up to that 6 inch mark, given this data. But I didn't want to go over 6 inches because I was afraid of just this moving too fast and not having enough time to accumulate that amount of snow. And that looks like exactly what's happening here in this event. This is just moving faster than even I thought it was going to. And that's saying something because I thought this was going to be a fast moving system. So that is pretty impressive. Let's take a look, see if there's any new data here. Also got the buff kit. I got like literally 7, 8 screens here all lined up, all the different model data. And I got a Windows computer, I know, but a Windows computer for buff kit over here that I like to use and study, and it's also showing some data where is this low is just really rapidly getting kicked out of there. I shouldn't be that surprised, but still, I mean, this thing might be over by the time you get in your car to drive home in many locations, which is great news um, in terms of reducing the impact on the evening rush hour. New observation at 12:20 in Crawford, New York, 2.2 inches of powdery snow, temperature 28 degrees with moderate snowfall. Well, About 0.8 inches away from verification there. Not bad. And I gotta admit, I'm curious to see what the storm coverage looks like on here. 1,186 people following. Not bad. Not bad at all. Let's see here. Steady accumulating snow in Pauling. That's from Tom. Yeah, I'm pretty confident this is going to verify very nicely. This up here, East Stroudsburg, this whole area right here, setting up pretty nicely for that verification. This one's hit and miss. This is good. Probably about a 93% verification. Not bad. Not bad for the first storm. Could be better. Let's see if we get this updated. And there's our mix line pushing northward. Now through Bergen, northern Essex, cutting into Hunterton, approaching Warren. I think it'll get close to Warren. Northampton, it's to south of you, still around Allentown. Allentown, you've gone over from snow to a wintry mix. So, freezing. Don't be surprised if you start to change over to rain there. So our rain line has gotten, pretty much where we expected to get to. Now it's the question of when do we see that transition, essentially. And that's what we're waiting for. So we're going to take a 20-minute break, and then we'll be right back afterwards. Okay. And we are back. All right. Thank you for the 20-minute break. Now, let's see where we're at right now. Our rain snow line has pushed northward as expected. Now, right around here, basically cutting through northern New Jersey, cutting through the southern Hudson River Valley, central Connecticut, and of course over northeastern Pennsylvania, where temperatures have ranged anywhere between 27 and 32 degrees. In this spot, that's where we're seeing this steady snowfall. We are seeing all rain now over northeastern and really north central New Jersey. And also, as we head down towards southeastern Pennsylvania, we are now seeing rain off towards southeastern Pennsylvania as well. Freezing rain still hanging around Lancaster that we have to watch very carefully. Rain up towards Reading as our rain snow line continues to shift further north. And you can see that here very nicely on the radar. Refresh this again. And there we have our wintry mix line pushing northward as expected. And on our radar, you see our whole precipitation event is all moving west to east at a pretty steady pace. Rainfall amounts, we pushed over a half an inch here in central New Jersey in Freehold at 0.52 inches. So we're already gotten to that point. Probably, in general, probably see about anywhere between a half an inch and an inch of rain throughout the region as this low pressure system continues to push off the coast. So again, we're coming to an end here over towards Sullivan. Let's zoom in a little bit and look at the back end here. We're seeing Sullivan's coming to an end, is approaching Wilkes-Barre, uh, clearing out Columbia, approaching school. Lebanon is getting closed out there as well. Lancaster, now you've gone over to rain, freezing rain a little bit, is coming to an end as well. So this storm again is moving pretty quickly at this rate, and the way it's setting up, it actually might be cleared out for most of the region before the bulk of the evening rush hour, which is great news. Is actually we'll see improving conditions, so that's certainly great news. And again, that's all because this whole low pressure system is just there's nothing to stop it from moving very very quickly off the coast. Let's update the latest water vapor satellite picture, and you can see this there's no blocking. That's why. See up here? Nothing really to stop this from clearing out of here and basically um, rapidly exiting, which is why we're seeing this end time get pushed up. And, that's pretty impressive. Now, I want to show you some of the observations we've had since then. Up towards Pendleton Borough, Calhoun County in Pennsylvania, about 1.7 inches of snow. It's rain sleet around 33 degrees. Storm total 3.7 inches so far. So let's make sure we share that. So, in terms of our observations here, let's see what we got here. See, 2.5 inches of snow, and I'm getting sleet now at 28. Warm nose is definitely pushing northward. 9 to 25 millibars. I'm still north of the 0 degree line, but within the next 2 hours, it would have moved north of me. Yeah, it's definitely progressing in that way. Um, it's probably more at this warm nose is probably more around 900 millibars. Um, I wouldn't even be surprised if it's around 900 and now I think about it, probably more like around 950 millibars. It's probably how low it is in the atmosphere, just above somewhere between 950 and 975. So take a look at our observations setting up here at first go to 850 millibars, see if we got any updates on there. And like I said, there's our 850 millibar low starting to take shape here. But the key is 9 to 25 millibars. That's what we're watching for. When we see the observation shift there, that's when we'll start to see this storm really coming to an end. and everything's starting to shift off the coast. And again, you can see the front of Genesis lined up here really nicely as our storm is getting ready to take that shift. Once this pushes off the coast, we should see this precipitation shield collapse pretty quickly over the west, which I think is what we're starting to really see. I mean, it's aligned perfectly with our stationary front, very nicely as this whole event pushes to the east. Jump to see if we got new HRR data. And this is just updated. Again, you can see where this rain snow line just stops, right? Now you might be asking why? Why does it stop right there? Why doesn't it keep on pushing northward into the rest of northeastern Pennsylvania and northwestern New Jersey, clearing Sussex, right? The reason why is because the model guidance is now picking up, the HRR model guidance is now picking up when that transition takes place at 9 to 25 millibars. And once it does, it basically stalls and then starts to push back west, back towards the east. So where do we have it stalling? Right around 3:30 to 4 p.m. That's when the mid-level lows officially are off the coast. We no longer see that progression northward. And that's why we keep all snow around Mount Pocono, northeastern Pennsylvania, the Catskills, northwestern New Jersey, and the central Hudson River Valley. And that's how we get our 3 to 6 inches of snow, which is verifying pretty nicely. Got any new observations here? So we're definitely seeing that progression pretty nicely. And it's important to understand this because now when you're seeing me forecast for these transition zones, now you kind of see what I'm trying to forecast here is that progression of that mid-level low pressure system transition. That is pretty much your forecast. When you're seeing the models trend colder or warmer, what you're really seeing are the model guides trying to handle the changes at the mid levels of the structure of the storm. Okay. So if you see a storm all suddenly trend colder, what's really happening is that the model guidance is transitioning that 850 millibar and 9 to 25 millibar low faster towards the coast when you're dealing with a Miller storm like this. This is a hybrid millipede storm, though. It's not exactly, but it takes some characteristics, um, like this transition. That's essentially what you're seeing here. The older European guidance that was very cold, that was dropping snowfall down towards the coastal plain, down towards the New York City metro, going like 4 or 5 inches of snow, was because it made this transition much faster. The older, colder guidance was setting up that transition to occur in the morning, which led to a much colder solution. The storm itself never trended further north or further south or anything of that nature. It was just that question of the transition zone. And so today, you're seeing that set up where we're watching to see when that process occurs. And again, here's the new updated 9 to 25 millibar. Let's zoom in here. And you can see indications of the new low taking shape here around the Jersey Shore. Let's go. Let's adjust the sector down a little bit. There it is. There's our transition taking shape here. Latest data just came out. Now it's right along the coastal plain, starting to consolidate right around the Delmarva. And so as this consolidation takes shape, see that here also at 850 millibars, this is where this is going to follow next. Now that we're seeing that 9 to 25 millibars here, this will follow next. And that's why you're seeing this slow down a bit. So the transition here might be a little bit faster. than what the HRR is suggesting. This might actually start to slow down um, a little bit faster than we're right around Warren. We're just about getting up to Sussex County. And here's your back end of the storm back here. So Lancaster, you're almost done. Central Pennsylvania, you're completely done with this storm. Coastal plains still rain, as you know. That's not going to change. Keep an eye on other observations. So that is definitely starting to take shape there. Very nice. So now that whole process is taking is evolving pretty much as expected. So one of the things that we're going to be watching for with our next storm, and we're still a little bit early, but let's take a look and see what the GFS is trying to do with our next storm. So let's see if I can pull up here. Let's see what the good old GFS is doing. Now here we are on Friday. Again, this actually isn't too bad of a representation here. Very fast moving, progressive. Probably a little bit more precipitation on the north side of this, but it's a very progressive low pressure system. And then here's the system that we're talking about for next week, where it's able to really intensify and organize. And you have high pressure to the north. There's your negative NAO pattern. I'd keep an eye on this time period for early next week. A lot of interesting signals here showing up. Let's see, why does it do that here at 500 millibars? Let's see what the GFS is trying to do here. Okay, so it's trying to set up that negative NAO signal. So the ridge isn't in place the way I'd like it for next week. And so it separates. So you have your blocking here. It separates the polar shortwave from the subtropical shortwave because this ridge axis isn't built up. Curious to see what the European does with this. Be very interesting data setting up there. Now, one thing, let me duplicate this, and let's see what the 18Z, I'm sorry, the 06Z European guidance did with our system. Oh, the 12Z's coming out. Okay. That's a good point. So let's take a look and see what that did. All right. So now we got 12Z data out already. I'm keep on forgetting the clock that went back. So okay, so our 12Z data, there's our storm exiting. And there it is for, again, this is very light precipitation. And then we have our other storm threat signal here trying to show up here. Let's see what that looks like at 500 millibars. So there's that one disturbance. Again, today's disturbance, sheared, progressive, moving fast. Friday into Saturday. Again, I like this. Why do I like it? Because the rest of the pattern would say this is a fast moving system, sheared apart. I like this depiction. This makes sense. Scattered rain, snow showers. I wouldn't, this is not a big deal. Okay. go into Tuesday and Wednesday. A little bit different interaction here. Let's see as to why we're seeing a different interaction here. America. So again, here we are on Friday, Saturday, no ridge, everything's progressive. Saying early next week. Okay, so this time in this model run, you have your blocking here. See this right here? It kind of gets knocked down too fast. So that's why it doesn't really consolidate all that much for next week. That doesn't mean we rule out next week. It's just that in this suite, what it teaches us is that if this gets a little bit too far to the east and pushes up towards, let's say, British Columbia, like this, then your storm threat is gone because it doesn't allow this ridge axis to build. So that's what we learned from this solution here, that it just basically throws everything off. You need this ridge axis to really build around Montana to get anything for the middle of next week. That's what we can learn from here. We have the cold air, we have the blocking, we have the potential here for snow. But that is pretty much as far as I would take that. And so thus, let me take a look at the data for this time period. Zoom back out here. I could definitely see, you know what, Friday night, I would not be surprised if, the coastal plain, I'm talking about like I-95 corridor, picks up maybe an inch of dusting out of this. Nice little light snow event. Not enough to cause, a lot of traffic problems or airport delays or anything, but it kind of give you a nice little feel. A few snow showers here and there, Friday evening, not anything to do a coverage on, live coverage, but nice little snow shower here and there on Friday. Very progressive. Again, keyword here, progressive, fast moving. Don't expect anything major out of this. But that shoots on out. So tropical congestion remains active. There is our clipper diving in, trying to redevelop a secondary low as it's doing so. So again, we'll have to watch out for that Tuesday, Wednesday time period. If we get alignment to take shape, basically, if the Pacific Northwest is dry on Monday and Tuesday, you end up with a winter storm here, because then that opens up the potential for amplification and is set up for this storm. That's what we could take from this, but still plenty of cold air. And then you have another disturbance right behind it later in that week. Again, I wouldn't take this in verbatim, but basically what the model guidance is trying to tell you is that we're moving into a very active pattern. And all this is happening before the MJO gets into phase 8, which is why I'm really, really interested, perhaps somewhat excited about the second half of December. But then you have the blocking, you have the highlight, you have the tropical forcing, all that playing out. I don't buy the building Southeast Ridge though. That's kind of ridiculous. But certainly a very active and interesting pattern. Back to our setup here. Again, notice our rain snow line kind of meandering here. Better way to take a look at it is this. Let's refresh, zoom out here. There's the back end of our storm coming to an end. There's our mix line right here. That is how we're seeing this whole setup evolve as we move forward. Let's see here. Dave has around 1 inch in Kennelly, North Morris County before changeover. I'm at 700 feet. So that verified pretty nicely. Let's see if there's any other news on X. Nothing new there. No new observations. I'm getting a phone call, so I'm just going to take a 5-minute break just to answer this client phone call, and then I will be right back. Okay. All right, and we are back. I'm putting myself back up here, and there we go. We have the latest observations. Thank you for taking a break there, but let me take a break. Duh. All right, so here we have our mix line, but notice how fast this is all coming to an end here. So we'll probably be ending the live coverage of this pretty quickly. Um, because this storm is moving pretty quickly. It's 1:22 p.m. right now, and everything's pretty much coming to an end already. Pushing it halfway through Lancaster County, it's approaching Berks County. This is going to be ending by 5, if not faster, the way that this whole setup is moving, which is pretty impressive. It's pretty telling that what happens when we don't have the blocking, just how fast these low pressure systems clear off the coast here. Here again, it's our rain snow line that is starting to slow down here. Is right around starting to approach Carbon County. Um, we're going to take a look and see what observations we have. More information. Wind is picking up around 1 inch here in Kempton, North Morris County, before the changeover at about 700 feet. Thanks for following along with the coverage. The great thing is I wanted to do this one to test it out. I figure okay, most of this is going to be rain. If there's going to be bugs, I can test it out, figure it out before we get some really impressive storms. So I wanted to get a couple of these streaming events under my belt before we get to some really good storms. So thank you for joining with all the questions. I really do appreciate it because it actually helps quite a bit in dealing with everything. On X, we don't have any more new observations right now. Heard on WFAN, Craig Carton is back. That is surprising. Um, that's going to change the drive time on WFAN. See if that improves things or not. Um, no news on the Mets, by the way. Very disappointing. I wanted them to sign everybody right now, but that isn't happening. They're going to make me wait, aren't they? Yeah. Okay, so let's go take a look at the mid-level low pressure systems here. See if we got any changes since we last talked. And I'm also excited because we're going to be finishing up decorating today. So I'm really excited because, Christmas and Christmas trees. We have 4 Christmas trees. Okay, I got the one behind me over here. Got another one in the secondary room by the kitchen. We have one in the living room. We have another one in the bedroom. So yeah, we're all ready for Christmas. We're waiting for Santa. Now we just need the snow, right? In this scenario, we're not going to see much snow on the coastal plain, as you know. And it's all about the mid-level lows. That's pretty much the main story here in this setup. But now the 9 to 25 millibar low has reached the coast, and so what you'll see is that the mid-level winds are going to be shifting to the north, and this is why A, this storm is going to end fast, and B, our rain snow line isn't going to be moving much further north from here on out. But wow, I'm kind of impressed with how fast this is moving. I'm not gonna lie. Let's take off the temperatures here. It's a little bit too busy. So let me some of this. But look at that, just pushing right through. It's pretty much coming to an end here. So we're not gonna have any more observations here. So yep, there's our rain snow line. Get up to about Sussex County now. Probably seeing sleet in here. But it's happening just about at the same time as the whole precipitation event's coming to an end. So there's a good chance. Definitely Wayne, Pike County, Monroe is just starting to get a little bit of mix. But Wayne, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton is definitely going to be seeing all snow out of this. No real frozen precipitation. And there's our wind starting to back more to the north as a result. So really tonight you're going to have clearing skies. They're not really expecting much more in additional precipitation going forward here. Um, Still some pretty heavy rainfall right along the coast. I mean, right now we are at 0.65 inches here in Freehold. Rain's falling pretty heavy. A lot of that frontogenesis is occurring right on the coast, right on our stationary boundary. Warmed up to about pretty close to 40 degrees, 39.7. So let's say about 40 degrees, 40 upper 40s to lower 50s here in southern New Jersey, right along the shore here. The colder air is trying to push back towards the coast, but is not there yet. And still plenty of rainfall. Again, the biggest thing for me out of all this is that thankfully southeastern Pennsylvania went above freezing. We had a little bit of concern here that that freezing line got stuck here for a little bit longer than I thought it was going to down here with the freezing rain. But now we have gotten above that. Even Lancaster reporting just rain at 33. But notice Harrisburg is now dry at 32 as our precipitation event just comes through here. And York is done already. Lancaster is just about to get done. Probably another 2 hours here in Chester for rainfall. Jersey Shore, probably next 3 hours, you'll be coming to an end. So this again, this whole system moved through pretty quickly, which was surprising to say the least. Surprising to see just how fast it moved. And again, the original guidance had this going all the way to about 4 a.m. Monday morning um, over around eastern Connecticut. That by 4 a.m. tomorrow morning, this is going to be well gone into the Gulf of Maine. And because it's moving faster, the whole process with the mid-level lows becomes less and less of a factor to the forecast because by the time the cold air transport takes hold at 850 millibars, this precipitation event is done. Really, the 850 millibar low is lagging behind the precipitation shield. Here, let's overlay the radar. There's the 850 millibar low. Here comes the cold and dry air transport. There's our precipitation pushing through. And this all is a result of us not having that high latitude blocking yet. We have the cold air, but it's transient until we get our sustained negative NAO, which is going to take some time. But that's what we're seeing. So if we don't have any more questions, I think I'm going to possible overperforming in Lower Hudson Valley. Probably not. Um, Jay's saying something. Oh, a couple people. Very impressive with the this live coverage. Just want to make sure I am not missing anything. But no leftovers in PA mountains. Need to do a PA turnpike run to Western PA soon. Um, I'd watch out for some slick roadways, Jay. Um, But by this evening, the precipitation will be shut off, right? So about 5 p.m. precipitation will be shut off. Still watch out for some slick spots. I definitely would be concerned about that. Some black ice as well. Anything that has fallen frozen is not melting anytime soon, so just be aware of that. But in terms of falling snowfall, at the rate this is moving, you will be fine after 5 p.m. And you know what? Let's see if we got new HRR data coming through. Let's update it. Okay, so yeah, by roughly about 5 o'clock, you're pretty much done. Few lingering snowflakes here and there, but you're pretty much done. So you should be able to drive just fine. Visibility won't be a problem. Just watch out for some black ice and some slick spots on the roadways. but that is pretty much about it. And then you should be good as far as precipitation until Friday. Again, Friday night into Saturday, some snow showers, but I think even that's just going to be flurries up towards um, the northeastern Pennsylvania. Western Pennsylvania shouldn't be too bad either. Possible overperforming in lower Hudson Valley? I don't think so, to be honest with you. I don't think there's enough time to pull that off. Um, maybe around Putnam, you probably get maybe 4 inches out of it. Poughkeepsie, that's where I was born. They're probably getting some pretty good snow and sleet, probably around 3, 4 inches. I don't see anyone, considering how fast it's moving, of pushing over 6 inches in this event. It's just, it's just booking. It's moving way too fast to support that type of outcome. If we had cold air down here at the rate that this rainfall is falling, we're up to 0.68 inches. That'd be a different story. But we're not there yet. Not bad. Yeah, it's just far too progressive weather pattern. I've been saying that from the start, though. But it looks like once the 850 millibar low gets to the coast, the precipitation event will be over at the rate this is moving. So you keep the snow up here, but no chance for any type of mix over because your mid-level cold air just gets hung up because of the way that this low pressure system is developing. Not that I was expecting much, but maybe a flurry at the very end. But that's out the window as well, based on what we're seeing here. The evening forecast is going to be adjusted then just to have scattered cloud cover. We'll put a wording here, a flurry or two, but that is about it. As your steady precipitation is just clearing out of here. So we covered the mid-level lows and the process that's taking shape. Uh, the evolution of the rain snow lines pretty well handled, and the location where we were expecting the bulk of our snowfall is also planning out pretty much as expected. If we don't have any more questions up here in the premium chat room, doesn't look like we do. What time will the rain end on the coastal plain between from the Jersey Shore to the east end of Long Island between 5 and 7 p.m. Your rain will be tapering off and clearing out. So that's pretty much what I'm expecting. With that, I'm going to come to an end with this live chat. It was a very, very good process, very good test run, um, setting us up for when we have some really impressive storms for the interior and for the I-95 corridor. But thank you for joining, and thank you as always for asking all these wonderful questions. I will see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. for our live chat, our normal weekly live chat, which will discuss probably a lot more about what's going on with La Nina and the changing weather pattern, and also, as we've talked before, some interesting potential for next week. And of course, as always, thank you and stay safe out there. I just got to put this and away we go. Thank you.